systems to force more fresh water out to help protect those areas. The fellow over in Apalachicola, he's worried about oysters. The fellow over in Cedar Key worried about clams. We're worried about tourism. The impacts that, when we talk about claims is, it's easy enough to say, I've lost this rental income, I've had this cancellation, I've lost this income. But if we have a lot of that, and we've had cancellations already on Navarre Beach, what happens to the folks now who aren't cleaning a condominium, who aren't serving meals at the local restaurants, and the ripple effect of that dollar going through the community? I was just on the phone with the governor's office as I came in here. That's my concern. I don't know how you document that. The universities can help us with that. It's going to be a long, tedious process, but what I need from you folks in particular is to keep good records. If you rent your units out, we know that Navarre Beach was on an upswing. We were 11 to 12% up this year from what we were last year. And last year we were the only market between Pensacola and Panama City that was up. And we were really looking forward to a good year. And honestly, after 5 years of being beat down by hurricanes, this was the year of the recovery. We need your records from last year to keep those handy. Keep records of what you've got this year. And let's see when the time comes if we're able to quantify what those losses might be and what that ripple effect is going to be. Let's see here. Now I'm going to get bouncing around a little bit. Admiral Landry, she's heading up the Coast Guard effort, the Unified Command. We actually have a different group from the Coast Guard when we get into the eastern part of the Gulf, but right now, because of the location, Admiral Landry's in charge. She made it very clear that we have the most experienced people in the world responding to this in Houston, on the ground, and on the seas, and in the landfall areas in Louisiana and Mississippi. She was very quick to point out that this is not a regional response, this is a worldwide response. Senator Landrieu, I don't know if any of y'all from Louisiana, the woman can make a point. Buddy, she told him how the cow eats corn yesterday, I'm going to tell you. And she's not the only one. We had three governors, Governor Christ, Governor Riley, and Governor Jindal. It was very clear after that conversation that this is not an ordinary spill. This was not a safety type accident where somebody collided. This is an uncontrolled flow. The predictions are 2 to 3 months to get the flow shut off. Now that can change. They've got 6 underwater unmanned vehicles working on this now, and God willing, grace of God, they can get that thing shut off at any time, and then we're just about to clean up in the recovery. But we're talking about 2 to 3 months of getting this thing under control and shut off. The dome that they're building, biggest dome they've ever tried to build, they've never put it in this deep of water, is at least a week and a half out, and they don't know if it'll work. So there's people asking for an explanation of what happened. I read in the Wall Street Journal last night about what they think might have happened. Halliburton, familiar name to most of us, Halliburton involved in the cementing process, and they've had a number of accidents putting cement around these pipes, and this very flammable gas coming up very quickly, and there's been a number of explosions and incidents, fires over the years. This one just happened to be really bad. They're at 18,000 feet. There is some fear that this becomes a full-blown blowout and that up to 100,000 barrels per day are released as opposed to the 5,000 that they think it is today. We're looking to Texas and Louisiana because they've had a number of spills, much smaller in scale of course, but they've been through this many times, so we're looking to them for their guidance and advice. But frankly, nobody's ever been through something like this before. So it's a very daunting task here. Sorry. I think I told you there will be tar balls, there will be staining. It is not physically possible to address the staining. There's volunteer groups out this weekend trying to do preliminary cleanup. To make the beach cleanup easier, we have groups associated with Santa Rosa County. We're going out taking photographs today and tomorrow and pulling soil samples and water samples so we can document a baseline of what the quality of all those items were before this thing makes landfall. So that in the event that we have a major catastrophe and we have to go through the recovery process, we can bring it back to what that quality was after the event. Secretary Soule was very quick to point out that this thing is probably going to hit us early next week, and we don't know, more than 72 hours out what's going to happen, but it could come in, we have this mess, we clean it up, we're still in that continuing flow, 2 to 3 months, and it can happen all over again. One of the things I'll be talking to the governor in person about Obviously the prep and the help that we've had getting up to this point has been very good. It's just like when a hurricane comes in, we all feel it's grim, it's sobering. We feel like we're going to do everything we can. We get there, but this is going to be a long, long recovery. And the fear is, what will the response be, and can it be sustained? And there was a number of people expressed that concern yesterday. BP's got a lot of money. They're doing everything they're asking now. They've got a phone bank set up in Houston, and they don't have enough people to answer the phones. Are they going to be so overwhelmed that they can't keep this up? The president has announced within the next 48 hours the president will be probably in Louisiana, Mississippi. So I think we're getting all eyes and ears. This does not have anything to do with party lines. I'm a Republican. We have a lobbyist in Washington who works both sides of the aisle. I'm going to be up there the week after next. I'm going up to talk about, we have an aquifer out in East Milton that provides all the water for 52% of the population of Santa Rosa County is down here. Going up to ask EPA informally for some advice on how to protect that water so we don't have to figure out how we're going to have drinking water 10 years from now. But I have a feeling that my conversation is going to be centered around this. Our lobbyist, and I've met these people, the Deputy Secretary of Homeland Security is a friend of ours, works for Janet Napolitano. His wife is Rahm Emanuel's Chief of Staff in the White House in the West Wing. I've met her. She is, if you know anything about Rahm Emanuel, he's a high-tempered guy, kind of out there, kind of wild. She is just the opposite. He's the yin, she's the yang. She's very calm, very level-headed. And while I'm not a Democrat and I'm not proud of what the Democrats have necessarily done the last year or two, I'm not above asking them for help, and we're going to work both sides of the aisle to do what it takes to take care of our people here. We are concerned about the claims process. We don't want to get caught up in the stuff that many of you have been through probably in the FEMA claims process. I'm going to ask the governor, and Senator Lemieux called me yesterday. We want them to help us with that, help quantify that, help expedite it, make sure people don't get beat down and lose their businesses and give up. Navarre Beach is probably the most resilient place I've ever seen in my life, but honestly, when you go through this every 4 or 5 years, it gets harder and harder. We have already had effects on the Eglin overwater ranges. Those of you know about what happens really just here at the Okaloosa County line. To the east is the overwater ranges for weapons testing and evaluation for the Air Force. And that's why we have always opposed offshore drilling, because we did not want any effects to that military mission. The military here is just too big of an impact. That range has already been closed because of reconnaissance, aircraft reconnaissance going out there to see where that spill is. And so they've restricted airspace, and they've restricted time over that airspace. We know that this next week, as that moves into the eastern part of the Gulf, it's going to affect that mission as well. And if this is a long-term effect, that's bad. That's really bad for this economy. We depend on tourism and the military, and it has international impacts as well. If we get into slowing down our weapons testing and evaluation, there's a matter of national security that needs to be addressed here. And if I missed anything, Daniel? Let me take your questions, because I know that I probably have hit some stuff really fast, and if I need to go back, we'll do that. And there's probably things I haven't even thought of, so. Yes, ma'am. There are, in the groups, if you get on Facebook or even on our website, there are a number of organizations already queued up to help with wildlife. And Daniel, you have that? Daniel had some really good information here, by the way. So.
There's some numbers. 1-800-557-1401 is how you report oiled or injured wildlife. We've got a volunteer reception line here in the county where people can volunteer to assist. And those numbers are all posted on our webpage and on Facebook. He does a really good job of communicating. And what I really want you guys to know is that you read a lot that Escambia is doing this, Escambia is doing that, Pensacola is doing this, and they never mention us. Everything they're doing, we're doing. I want that absolutely clear.
And let me amplify that, because Secretary Soule made it very clear yesterday. When he talks about what's going here, he talks about the Pensacola region, because that's where everything's staged at Pensacola NAS. And when he talks about the Pensacola region, he's talking about Escambia, Santa Rosa, Okaloosa, and Walton County. Right. So that's really frustrating, and I know those of us that are sitting there looking at the media reports, again, it's not that, I'm not sure they necessarily understand. It's not that they're not telling the truth, they're just not telling the whole truth, and they may not even understand the truth. But that is Pensacola region, and Secretary Soule's very careful to make that distinction, but it oftentimes just gets reported as Pensacola, and it sounds like we're doing nothing, and nothing could be further from the truth. Yes, ma'am.
If we lose money on rentals,